Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. Welcome to another chess analysis video. Today we are going to look at a game between Elizabeth Cassidy and Jully Maina. This game was played during the final round of the Kenya National Chess Championship 2024. Now this game was very interesting, and prior to this game, Jully Mutisya had 7 points. He was leading the tournament. They had tied 7 points with Sasha Mongeli. So they both had 7 points. Jully, on her side, was able to win 6 games and secure draw in 2 games, while Elizabeth Cassidy had 5.5 games, having won 5 games and securing a draw in 1 game and having 2 losses. So this game was very important to Jully because her and Sasha were leading the tournament with 7 points, and in case any of them will win their respective games, will go ahead to win the tournament. But unfortunately, in the ladies section, both Jully and Sasha were able to lose their final games in their final rounds. Hence, they went on to playoffs, since they had 7 points, and also other players were able to win their games. And though I think 4 other players who were able to gather 7 points by the end of the 9 rounds. Hence, they went into playoffs, and Sasha was able to win the tournament after the playoffs. But the reason why I decided to go for this game was very interesting. First of all, Elizabeth Cassidy is lower rated compared to Jully. Jully is a chess master. It was a very interesting game. Cassidy also is lower rated. Her rating is 1704, while Jully Mutisya, her rating is 1809. So a lot of elos difference there, but nevertheless Cassidy was able to play a very good game. So let's dive into the game. The game begins with e4 and then d6. Now this was one of the reasons why I found this game very interesting. First of all, d6 by black is not a very common opening that you see often, especially in tournaments. So I think Jully Mutisya, I think she underestimated that maybe Cassidy didn't have enough knowledge of this opening, but nevertheless she decided to go for this opening. The opening itself is called the Pirc defense, and it's not a very common opening, and usually people don't play it a lot. So nevertheless, Jully decided to opt for the opening. So d6 by black, and then white responded appropriately by playing d4, which was the correct move. And then knight to f6, and then knight to c3, protecting the e4 pawn. And then finally g6, entering into the Pirc's main defense line. Now it's important to note that during this opening, it's not advisable for black to push the pawn to e5, because after takes, and once the queens are off the board, the king will have to pick up the white's queen. Hence, the king will lose the castling rights, and thing won't be. Black will not have a good positional play, because you have to all the time be aware of the king's safety. So in this position, usually some people always like to play something like c5, and then e5 is not common, but the main line is the g6 played during the tournament. Now the game continued with f3. Now this f3 move was not a very common move, because in this position the best move to play is either to play f4 or to play knight to g3, knight to f3, sorry. Now it's interesting to note that people who are tactical usually like to go for the move f4, because it occupies a lot of squares. It enables white to occupy a lot of squares at the center. Hence it's good for coming up with tactical ideas. But the same goes with knight to f3. But I don't know why Cassidy went from f3, but nevertheless that is what happened during the game. Also, it is important to note that this Pirc defense is also a hyper modern opening whereby it allows white to occupy the center and later fight for the center afterwards. But now the downside of this kind of openings falls into the same categories as the King's Indian, the Grunfeld, and the Benoni. Now the disadvantage of this game, of this kind of defenses, is that you must know your theory right, because if you make a mistake, white can punish you or you can easily lose the game. So if you know your theory well, and if you know how to navigate it, then well and good, it can be one of your best weapons against white or against e4. But if you're not so sure, it can be disastrous, because once white is able to occupy the center and you're not able to win it or to fight for it later, it becomes hard for you, because he clamps your position down and it's usually hard for you to navigate. So nevertheless, it's usually a good opening. So those people who like playing it and they know it well enough, it's a good choice of opening for black against e4. So the game continues c6, which was played by black, which again is not appropriate or common move, because in this such kind of position, usually black usually tends to go for moves that tend to open up the center, like pushing the pawn to c5 and etc. But during the game, c6 was played and followed by bishop to c4 by white. So trying to develop the pieces and trying to take more space at the center by white. b5 was played by black, and bishop to b3 was played by white, simply dropping the bishop back. And then a5, trying to clamp the bishop down, but the natural move a3 was played by white so as not to lose the bishop due to the move f5. So a3 is pretty natural. So knight b to d7 was played by black, and then knight g to e2 was played by white. And then after bishop to g7, castles by both players. So up to this game, things are pretty normal. The game is equal and nothing much is coming up. Everyone is trying to develop their pieces, and things are not bad for any of the players. So bishop to e3 played by white, kind of making sure that this diagonal, this bishop protects the king, and also protecting this pawn against this bishop in case that diagonal opens up. Bishop to a6 by white, and then queen to d2. Now this move, queen d2 is very, very important, because first of all, white understood that there are usually two ways in which you can dismantle a fianchetted bishop or this kind of king defense. So usually it's either by pushing your pawns so that you get rid of this the g6 pawn, so that you can open up the king side, or you can also move this other pawn, the h pawn, also to do the same, or rather to get rid of this bishop. So those two are usually the main ways to open up the king side bishop that protects the king. So that's why I think Cassidy went for the move queen to d2, knowing that very well later in the game he'll go for this option. Getting rid of this, the dark squared bishop, will be very essential towards undermining the king side. So that was a good choice move by white. So the game continues. Queen to c7, and then rook f to e1, knight to b6, and then pawn push to e5, kind of trying to open things up. So black responds with moving the knight f to d5, and then after picks, yeah, white wins to picking the pawn d6. And then after the pawn takes, Then now the final or the anticipated move, bishop to h6. And then here black opted to drop the knight back to f6, and then after allowing the bishop to be picked, here now king takes g7 was played by black. Now as you can see, white has been able to create kind of a weakness, because first of all, it's easy to pin this knight, and then also by having the king on the g7 square, the king is vulnerable to attacks. And since this file also will be open soon, things are not looking up for black, simply because the bishop on g7 was eliminated, and then also the e file was open. So black had to play accurately, or rather had to play precisely, so that to keep things under control. So the game continued with knight to g7, opening up the f file, and then queen to b6, kind of utilizing a pin or creating a pin, and then here a simple king to h1, kind of getting away from the pin. And then here black played the move bishop to c8, kind of trying to maneuver the bishop, trying to create attacking chances or attacking plans. I think maybe he had plans of eliminating this bishop, because he knew that the white bishop was quite strong. But white had other plans, or white had other strategies that he wanted to utilize. So the game continues with the push pawn to f4. Remember, the initial idea of pushing the pawn and opening and stripping the king bare was one of the best plans for white in this kind of opening, because as you can see, the king is very much vulnerable. So black continued playing to c5, and then after pawn takes to c5, pawn takes, and then here Cassidy went for the move pawn to c4. It's also interesting that this move was intentional, because I think the natural or the most common move for people, I think, in this position would be to play something like c3, and then like draw the bishop back. But instead Cassidy knew that he could easily pin this knight, and once the knight is pinned, he could have various attacking chances, and that's why he had good plans of pushing the pawn to c4. Also, it's important to note that in this position, after bishop to e6, it wasn't the best move, but as the computer suggested, the best move was to bring the rook to d1, kind of eliminating the queen on d2, and now the king will have to go to, or will have to play, the white will have to play something like c2, and then which will be followed by something like b4, like trying as much as possible for white not to occupy this diagonal, because once this pin is enabled, it becomes very hard for black to play, and he will be defending through the game. So the best move in this position was actually to bring the knight to d8, but Jully decided to go for the move bishop to e6, and immediately Cassidy played the best move in this position, which I must commend her for being able to spot it, and that was very nice of her. Now here black played the move b4, but now in this case is a little late, or is rather late for this move, because once you miss the previous move of bringing your rook to d8, it now already white has occupied this diagonal, and as you can see, I've already also blocked you have also blocked the queen from protecting the knight on f6. So this move was a little late, so Cassidy played the best move in this position yet again, and the best move in this position was queen to e5. Now after queen to e5, here black decided to opt for an exchange since he knew that the queen was very important. It played a major role, but here Cassidy was able to find the best move in this position. If you want, you can try and pause the video and try to find out which is the best move in this position. Now the best move in this position was it's not that much hard to find. The best move was knight to h5 check, and since it's a check, black had to respond, and after takes, was given this nasty check of queen to e5 check, and he must drop, and then he won the queen back with the check. And now black had to move the king to g8. One very important thing to note that there's a very important move order sequence that white must play, otherwise he will lose the advantage that she had. So in this position, after the queen attack by pushing the pawn to b4, you can't go straight away for this check, because after takes, you lose the ability to give the check on g4 or on g5, sorry, and that's the main reason why you must play e5 in this position. And this goes ahead to show the importance of following a move order sequence, especially in tactical position. If Cassidy had played this move earlier, at this particular point, he wouldn't be able to utilize the attacking advantage that she had. So, and I'm glad that she followed the correct move order sequence by playing queen to e5, and then after queen to b8, she gave the check. Then after pick, check. Then after king moves, check again. And then here Cassidy found the best move, which was rook to e5, because this gives the threat of this checkmate, which cannot be stopped. So black tried to respond by protecting the pawn, by protecting the g5 square, by pushing the pawn to h6, but after takes, the mate is still there, the mate threat is still there, and hence black had to pick up the rook, hence losing the queen. And now at this position is simply a matter of conversion. It's just simply game over. Now black tried to hold up the position, which was already lost, but Cassidy continued with his attack, playing bishop to c2, kind of giving a checkmate threat on h7. Black responded by playing f5. Then en passant was played by black. Then black continued like trying to stop the checkmate threat. And then here bishop to e5, bishop to e4 was played, trying to win the rook or pinning the rook, but black responded by bringing the bishop back to e6. And then after winning the rook on a8, black was able to resign, and hence white won the game. Now it's very important to note that in this position there was a mate in 8 pattern which was forced, but it wasn't that easy to find. Cassidy missed it, but I'll just show you the mating pattern so that you can see how, if she had spotted it, the mating pattern would have gone. So the best move in this position actually was not playing bishop to e4 as played during the game, but rather playing rook to e1. After that, black responds with defending, bringing the bishop to e2. After capture, rook to d8 is forced, kind of trying to defend, but a simple move rook to e1 must be played. And then after the bishop is attacked, bishop to g8 must also be played, kind of trying to win the knight, to win the rook. And then black must play rook f to d7, and then bishop to f5, and then after f4, white must give the check. And then after rook defense on f7, and checkmate is simply served on g7. And that was the mate in 8 pattern that Cassidy missed, but nevertheless she played well in this position. It was already losing for black, and it was just a matter of simple conversion. So after bishop takes a8, black simply resigned, and that's how Cassidy won the game. Now I must say that this game was pure explosives. It was pure fire. First of all, not many people will have played the way Cassidy was played, and McHugh Cassidy is only 13 years of age, and she's playing quite good chess. So big up to her. She shows a good understanding of the game. Well played. Also Jully, there was some missed, I think she didn't understand how to play the opening quite well. Quite of blunders made during the game, but all in all, Cassidy was able to play a good game and hence won the game. So thank you for watching. Give your shoutouts or give your comments of how you like or what you have learned from the game, what you think I should improve on. Any comments are welcome. Feel free to subscribe, share, like the video, and let's keep the fire burning. So once again, see you in my next video, and thanks for watching. Bye bye for now.